This meeting's up to a great start.
Things to talk about
Oh,
because I missed a meeting, but I'll try to be quick.
I have one thing. 6:30.
6:30.
I mean, 5:30.
We're going to start the meeting now. Welcome, everyone. I would like to ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Russ Brown.
Present.
Rod Runyon.
Present.
Linda Miller.
Here?
Timothy McLaughlin.
Present.
Mayor Mays.
Present.
Darcy Long Curtis is absent.
I would now like to ask Councilman Tim McLaughlin to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you please stand and join me in stating the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is presentations and proclamations. First is a presentation to the Dalles High School cheerleaders. During my quest to become mayor for the city, I spoke about the need to promote pride in our city and to recognize significant achievements by young people in our community. The next topic on our agenda achieves both of those. 2 weekends ago, the Dalles High School Riverhawks cheerleading squad earned a second place finish in the Oregon State Athletic Association Co-Ed Cheerleading State Championships held at the Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Portland. Our cheerleaders earned the second highest point total out of every cheerleading team in the state of Oregon, including the larger 6-8 schools, with 196.4 points. Job well done. The team is here to be recognized tonight along with their parents and their coaches. And at this point, I'd like to introduce Kelsey Sugg Wallace, who will say a few words, introduce the coaches and the cheerleading squad, and the city has some certificates of achievement to hand out as well. Kelsey?
No ice cream? Microphone, yes.
On behalf of the Dalles High School cheer team, I would just like to start by saying thank you for inviting us here tonight. We can't express how much this really, truly means to us to be recognized. At the beginning of the year, the seniors and I got together for our senior year meeting, and we decided that we wanted to come up with a team acronym or word for the year. We set it based off qualities we wanted the season to be based on. The word the seniors decided on was strive. This stood for shoot for teamwork, respect, integrity, victory, and excellence. I can say wholeheartedly that this team exemplified all these qualities throughout the last 9 months together, and that's the reason that they had the success that they did at state. While these athletes are working on bettering their skills for competition season, they trained for 9 straight months working on their sideline skills, cheering at every home football and basketball game. Not to mention some kids juggling multiple sports while cheering, all while working hard at school to keep their grades up. Our season begins in May, and we start fundraising and working our skills clear up until February. We work for 9 straight months for a 1 2-minute and 30-second routine. They only get one chance to go out and hit their stunts, throw their tumbling, all while yelling and cheering. It takes a lot of endurance and strength to be a cheerleader, more than most realize. Every year brings many challenges, and I could go on and on about how much work goes into this sport. From all the injuries to state being postponed for the first time in cheerleading state history due to the snow, I'm so proud of how hard all these kids worked this year and how far they have come. We entered one of the toughest divisions at state, finishing second, all while having the second highest score out of every team in Oregon. This has not come easy, but I couldn't pick a harder working group of kids. I can't forget to mention my amazing coaches who have helped me along the way. It takes a village. A special thank you to Allie, my assistant coach, and to my volunteer coaches who have volunteered a number of hours, Jessica, Summer, and Megan. Thank you for helping me make this program the best it can be and being so dedicated to me and these kids. I could not do it without you. Okay, I will. Okay, first up we have Amber Hilligus, and she is a sophomore. So if you guys want to come up when we call your name.
I'd like to just read real quick. This certificate is presented in recognition of the Dallas High School cheerleading squad, second place in the 2019 Co-Ed Small Division State Championships. Our sincere thanks on representing your school and your community in such a positive manner. We are proud of you. On behalf of the City Council and the citizens of Dallas, please accept our congratulations.
Yeah, next up is Annabelle Shearer. Ali Acevedo. Brianna Birchfield. Kayla Parsons. Ellie Cardosi. Emily Adams, but she couldn't be in attendance tonight. Giselle Schwartz. Hannah Corchi. Hannah Wallace. Carla Hernandez. Thank you. Lizzie Olivan. Mackenzie Smith. Olivia Thomas. Melly Avila. Makylie Brantner. Nathan Nanias. And Stephanie Flores. And two of my coaches are here tonight, Jessica Rada and Summer Mulliken.
Kelsey, you think we could have some down on one knee in front?
Yes.
So that way we can get a good picture of everybody?
Absolutely.
So everybody goes down on one knee.
They would love that.
You should go right in.
Go right ahead.
Are we doing the medals? I know.
So nice.
Yeah, it is.
This is a first, isn't it?
Okay, do one more. Nice pose. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.
Sorry, I had to work that. I had no organizer from way back.
Hey, Rich,
Yes.
is that folder yours?
Yes. Thanks, Russ.
Thank you.
Oh, so the chief can go back and sit where he usually sits.
One of these days I'm gonna clear the sawzall and trim it up.
Yeah. So, problem is, we don't have keys to the building, so you're gonna have to do it during the light of day.
Tiger Shark chased him.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a presentation from Roger Klein, General Manager from the Northern Wasco Public Utilities District.
Thank you, Mayor Mays. I appreciate the invitation to come tonight and share the current workings of your Northern Wasco County People's Utility District. We are one of the 37 consumer-owned utilities in the state of Oregon and one of 6 PUDs. Our service territory covers the city of the Dalles and as well as some outlying areas, and we thought there'd be a great opportunity to come share with City Council, so greatly appreciate the invitation. I do want to acknowledge that we have I see one of our elected Board of Directors members here in the audience, Dan Williams from your PUD board, is here with us tonight, as well as members of my staff. If in case the questions get too hard, they're here to help with that. So I'll begin. So who we are. Again, Northern Wasco County People's Utility District, community-owned utility, first formed in 1939, but it took 10 years to kind of go through the process of procuring the electrical infrastructure from then Pacific Power and Light. So we first delivered our first kilowatt hour in 1949. So you guys can do the math. We're celebrating our 70th year of service to the community. I'm very proud of that. As previously stated, we are governed by a local 5-member board of directors made up of the 5 subdivisions of the Dalles and outlying area. For those that were wondering, your electricity is primarily sourced from the Federal Columbia River Power System. We are in the Dalles, so electricity generated at the Dalles Dam, Bonneville Dam, John Day, and the rest of the federal system, and marketed from the Bonneville Power Administration. So not only are they our neighbors, they're our customers as well, and your source of energy. The PUD, through good investments over the years, has also procured and we operate and maintain 2 hydroelectric facilities here in our community, one at the Dalles Dam and one at McNary. And if I can help it, I'll never go after cheerleaders again. That's a tough act to follow, so good stuff. So again, the fuel that powers our economy here in our community. The majority of our electricity comes from the federal system, as I previously stated, as well as the two owned hydro stations here in our community. This power is low cost, renewable, and does not create CO2 emissions that contribute to climate change. As demand for electricity grows and as the number of customers grow, the utilities challenge will be to continue to provide you with this high level of reliable power, excellent customer service, all while keeping your electric rates among the lowest in Oregon. Speaking of rates, that is next. And forgive me if I refer to my notes as I'm talking to you and trying to keep this table from coming over on me here. So here's how your residential rates stack up for a customer using approximately 1,000 kilowatt hours of electricity per month. If you're using about 1,000 plus the facilities fee or the fixed charge portion of your bill, it's about $75 a month. I state that because a lot of folks, especially this time of year, tend to use more than that 1,000 kilowatt hours a month. The national average is about 865 kilowatt hours a month for typical, whatever typical means, residential home. In Oregon, the average is about 900. In our service territory, it's about 1,200. So the average bill is typically higher than that, and we'll talk about that as the presentation goes on, different tools and resources that we make available to the public to help conserve and reduce not only your consumption, but your bill. We recognize that there are sensitivities to escalating costs in our community. As a happenstance, our non-residential rates, our commercial and industrial, are lower than that. We're further to the left of average for those customers, which has helped to draw businesses and energy-intensive customers to our community, which is a good thing, and we'll talk about that as well. The Board of Directors recognized early on that especially in the cold of winter when electricity consumption is high, that we don't want to send negative price signals to our customers, and we want to be able to offer relief for when those bills are high and the consumption is high. So the board approved discounted electric rates in the residential sector for folks that are either senior, disabled, or verified low income. We don't make those determinations ourselves. We partner with CAP, our local provider, to be able to offer a 10% reduced rate and a 35% reduced rate to our community. Those are, again, offered now all year rather than just in the cold months. So the rate 110 is the 10% discount. As of February of 2019, we had 405 folks in that rate class, and the 35% discount, as of February, we had 261 community members receiving that discount. So overall, in our residential space, about 6.5% of our customers are receiving that reduced rate. And that's a good thing for our community of need. We never want to be the reason that someone goes hungry or stays cold in the dead of winter or hot in the heat of the summer. We recognize that that is a reality for some of our folks, and we want to be a good partner to ensure that folks are well taken care of. Again, I stated what the national average is and the Oregon average, and then what our average is, and some of the work that we're doing to support that. So, as this body is very well aware, the population of the Dalles grew by, we call it 17% between the years 2004 and 2015, which is much faster than the state average. New knowledge industries, cryptocurrency mining, data centers like Google have located within our service territory, and they are large energy users. This is one of the attractors to our area. We refer to it as robust infrastructure. It's very robust, very reliable, and very low cost in the commercial industrial space, and we want to help ensure that the community members are receiving that benefit, and that's one of the great things that Mayor May has asked me to come share with you is how this all works together as a PUD, as a body, and the city as a body, and these mutual benefits that we can provide. You'll see in the upper left corner, it's kind of wonky utility speak, and we recognize it, but when we talk about customers, we talk about meter points. And we want to be very sure that we acknowledge and appreciate that there tends to be more than one person per household. So just because we talk about 10,100 customers, that doesn't mean that there's only 10,100 people in our community. We have plenty of folks that commute in for work, that may live somewhere else. or that there are more than one person living in these households. So we're working on our vernacular to ensure that we talk about the 15,000 people that are here at any given day, if not more, and recognizing that they're all our customers. It's more than just the person that pays the bill. Specific to a question that Mayor Mays asked me before we started presenting tonight, was talking about downtown, and if some of these windows were open, we could see the utility corridor that we have in the alleyways here in the downtown core. And though they're vintage, some of the poles and pole structures, they're not leaning into the wind or away from the wind on purpose. That just happens when stuff gets old, and we fully appreciate and recognize that. What we're trying to do is be a good partner and a good community member, so when we meet with your public works staff and your planning staff, and we're talking about reinvestment in the community, whether it's water, sewer, telecommunication, or electric infrastructure, the story I talked to City Manager Kruger about is the worst thing that could happen is if I come up and dig up the road and patch it, and then 2 weeks later you guys tear up the road and then patch it, and then someone else comes and does it again. We've all failed if that happens. So we're trying to be really good partners to ensure that we can coordinate our planning work and recognize that there is opportunity and a need to renew some of the downtown infrastructure, and we want to be your good partner to perhaps even underground all of it. Recognize that that takes a lot of planning. I'd rather plan longer and work shorter than have to plan, start work, and then change that midstream. So again, we appreciate your patience as we work together to ensure we're doing it right, the most efficient and the most affordable. So thank you for that. I think I'll leave that one there. Okay, now it's my utility nerd stuff. The electric system is very reliable and very robust. It's very low cost from a sourcing perspective. The graphs and charts behind me talks about our electric system load from 2016 to today. So this is the amount of power consumption on the electric grid in our system in that time frame. Blue being the daily average and red being the peak or the highest point of consumption. What you'll see is the average, if you were to, I'll use the little laser widget, that has grown exponentially from 2016 to today. As a matter of fact, on March 5th, just last week, we had our historic highest ever electric consumption between the hours, I'm looking at Paul, 8 and 9? Yes. 8 and 9. So it was really cold outside, the temperature dipped, and everyone turned their heat up. Shock, right? That was a lot. So 132.99 megawatts, typically enough for a city double our size at least. Looking at Curtin, Paul, yeah, on average. So it's the upside of having this very strong, reliable, low-cost infrastructure and electric service that attracts businesses to us. We just have to make sure that when everyone turns it all on at the same time, it's going to stay on. For those that have been watching kind of Portland area news over the last few weeks, when that snow came down wet in the Willamette Valley, lots of people lost trees and ergo power outages. Our colleagues at Douglas Electric Cooperative in Southern Oregon are still, I think it was 2,000 people as of this morning that still didn't have electric service. I'm very thankful to report that was not our situation, and I know I had my heater up at my house, so I assume that you all did too. So we worked together and we got that done. So what does this mean specifically as we talk about planning? And again, if we think about that downtown core and the outlying area and new construction and expansion of large businesses in our community, ensuring that they have that same reliable power, these are our forecasts for growth. The slide I showed you earlier talked about essentially this time period, and this is what we have in the very conservative assumptions for known interconnections and growth that are happening. So we're just getting into that steep part of that curve. This is really good for the community in multiple ways from an electric infrastructure nerdy guy's perspective. The amount of growth with the new 230,000 volt receiving station that's being constructed now in the Port of the Dalles area. I refer to that socially as our international airport that's coming into the community, or a high-speed train or whichever large infrastructure you can think about. The opportunity to fully take advantage of that. Oh, sorry, I don't know the password. You're going to have to fix that. Got it. Yeah, pass. Sorry, I digress. This is good, and just so you know that the PUD Board of Directors helps us be very conservative on our planning assumptions. So when I forecast numbers to you, the City Council, about what this means in franchise fees from one entity to another to help with those easements and to help with those alleyways, that we're being very conservative. We don't put into our financial forecasts anything that isn't kind of ink on paper, and I'll say it that way. We're also very clear, and my boss has asked me to ensure that I reminded everyone that by policy and by practice, we don't allow one customer class to subsidize another, nor one customer class to assume financial risk for another. So I know there's a lot of social speak in the Northwest about cryptocurrency mining, and are you soaking up all the power? That one that gets talked about a lot. We are very, very diligent in ensuring that no one rate class can cross-subsidize nor add risk to any other. So the cost of growth is not being borne on our residential space, and the people that have been here for a long time are not any more at risk. If anything, they receive the benefit of this infrastructure growth and this investment in our community. I had a great opportunity to tour a facility with Commissioner Runyon when he was in his former role as a county commissioner, and just be able to show folks the cool things that are happening in our town was really, really special. So thank you again for going with me. So this is the mutual benefit. These are actuals through 2018 and solid forecasts we feel from 2019 through 2021. You can note that franchise fees transferred from the PUD to the city grew by 20% in 2017 and 23% in 2018. So this is the point I wanted to emphasize, is that load growth is not just good for the electric system and the utility, but it's good for our partner governmental entity in the city as well. So again, thank you. And this stemmed from a conversation I happened to have with Mayor Mays, and he thought it'd be a great idea for me to come share all of this with you. So thank you again. So all this stuff has been happening, right? We've had community growth, we've had load growth, we've had infrastructure reinvestment. So you can't do all that stuff and then consider your planning the same way you've always done it. So our board was very open to having a conversation about strategic direction of the utility. We spent a lot of time, and I know I spent a lot of time working with my bosses, the board of directors of the PUD, and our senior staff did as well, talking about, well, what do we want to be when we grow up? Yes, we've been in existence for 70 years, but the future is different than the past. And how can we best prepare our community and our electric system and our customer owners for this future? The 2018 to 2028 planning horizon that is addressed on the cover of our strategic plan there is very specific. The take-or-pay contract that we have with the Bonneville Power Administration, remember what I said earlier, that is our largest energy supplier and as well as our neighbor. That contract expires in 2028. So maybe our energy needs might be different than they were 20 years ago when those contracts were signed. And this is something that not just Northern Wasco County PUD is working with, but all the consumer-owned utilities in the Pacific Northwest. So your board of directors spends a lot of time in the Portland space, as do I, with regional organizations saying, what's the right thing to do for public power in the Northwest? So if you choose to want to dig in further, here's my plug for our website and the strategic plan. They're all there. Financial information, planning information, talks about our kind of the big things ahead and how we're preparing for them. So if you're interested, you can either have me back, but I know City Manager Kruger has it because she was one of my proofreaders, and I appreciate that, so thank you. When we updated the strategic plan, we also had the opportunity to talk about the values of the organization. Are they still the same? What's it mean to be a public power entity in the Pacific Northwest and in the Dalles? How can we be a better partner? So we recognized, and the board re-emphasized with us, as they volunteered too, that it's okay for us to take a day and go spend it in the community. It's okay to take some time and talk about that discounted rate, and you know what, folks could use that all year, not just when the when it's really hot or really cold. So those are the type of decisions through the strategic planning process that we could talk about the values of the entity as itself, the district, and how we can articulate those and display those throughout the community. So those are just a few of the outputs that happen through the strategic planning process and our update of our stated values, up to and including the best safety record that we've ever had in the history of the organization, at least since I've been here, and just really a commitment to not only our customers, but to our staff as well. Is these folks, the ones in the room especially, they spend a lot of time kind of holding my hand and keeping things happening the right way in the community, and I'm very appreciative. So thanks, guys, the ones that are here as well. Safety, integrity, customer service, respect, operational excellence, and sustainability. That's what our folks are working on in support of the city and our community, so thank you. Getting close to the end, so thanks for your patience. Infrastructure renewal, what I wanted to state here is that the point of this chart, this graph, is that infrastructure reinvestment, especially for the city, you guys know you own roads and water systems and everything else. We use a couple different performance indicators. One of them is budget. You want to at least reinvest what your depreciation is, and if you don't reinvest it, put it away for future needs. So we're off track there for a little bit because we were very sensitive to rate actions, and we had to be because the country was in a recession. Unemployment was high and the economy was struggling, so there was a lot of rate sensitivity. For the most part, the community, the state, the nation has recovered from that, and we're able to reinvest back in our communities. If you're a data nerd like me, the Association for American Society for Civil Engineers, they have an infrastructure report card every 2 years. You can Google this and find it on YouTube. The report card for the energy sector in 2017, not specific to your district, but to the nation, was a D+ on the report card. And it talks about what city councils, PUD boards, et cetera, can do to ensure that those report cards improve, that the grades go up. So for those that own water systems and roads and rail, there's some good information there. Maybe folks have recognized and realized that there's a lot of vintage infrastructure around in the electric space in the community, but I hope for those that notice that also notice that we've been working really hard to improve it and replace it. We built a new substation in the industrial park called the River Trail Substation. Really proud of that one. And a new one is being planned for the east side of the Dalles, working with the school district on some property that they own. The Ty Valley substation is being rehabilitated. It's in the planning stages now. Lots of stuff, and no shortage of work, but we like that. There's good work to be done. This talks about that capital investment plan. You'll notice that the next 3 years, that's those high bars. A lot of big stuff. It's because some of the large items, a power transformer for a substation can cost upwards to $800,000 or $1 million. So, we have this internal dialogue where our IT department comes to the capital meeting and says, I need $40,000 to do a server. Like, yeah, okay. And they're like, well, that's a lot of money. It's like, it is, but comparatively speaking to a bucket truck or, a substation, we recognize that the need is long and the needs are many. What we do as an organization is make risk-informed decisions. So everything gets a kind of a criticality evaluation, and the things that are the most important get done first, but that doesn't mean the original needs go away. We just try to, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? That's what we're doing, is just taking those bites. That's a great picture of your board of directors reviewing the River Trail substation's completion with some staff 2 years ago, and again, we're real proud of that, and there's more to be had. But it isn't all just wires and poles. We recognize and appreciate that how we interact with the community is very important. We've spent a lot of time expanding those products and services. So now when you call the office, you can pay your utility bill without having to talk to a person if you don't want to. You can log on to their website and pay for your utility bill electronically. There are many ways and means. The board, as part of that outreach, said, we recognize that we used to charge a convenience fee for that. We're just going to roll that into the cost of doing business, so there's no extra fee for that necessary work. We want to make doing business with us easy. And if there's other ways that we can do that, we're going to continue to try, including efficiency and conservation programs. I stated earlier that we tend to use more electricity in our residential space than other utilities of similar size or in the state and the region. In 2018, we did 348 conservation projects or rebates throughout the system for a total of about $950,000. So we know the projects are out there. We know people can see them. For those that are interested, what we didn't want to see happen is that kind of those with affluence were the only ones that were able to get that work done. So our conservation team worked really hard and relaunched our energy efficiency upgrade program, and that includes low income and renter. So if you're a renter or someone designated as or identifies as low income, we can work with you to ensure that you have these same programs available to you. Proud to say that the low-income weatherization, helping people get insulation and things, we spent about $650,000 doing that last year. And that's what's good for the community. And why that is our Bonneville bill, that energy that we purchased on everyone's behalf, that's our largest budgetary line item. So if we can help folks reduce their bills and thereby reducing that largest budgetary line item for the PUD, that helps everyone. And that ensures that we're not cross-subsidizing one set of folks for another. Other cool things that we want to work on, helping the electrification of the transportation sector. A few of us were at the Carbon Cap and Trade Roadshow. Was that last week? It was interesting. I'll leave it at that. But had the opportunity to present on Public Power's behalf and on the PUD's behalf. There are some good things in that legislation, but if you really want to focus on carbon in Oregon, it's not the utilities. As I stated, we're 98% carbon free and our only exposure is what we purchase on the market, but it's the transportation sector. So I had a great conversation with someone from the local transit office talking about electrification of buses for perhaps fixed routes. Just recognize that if it cost you $60 to fill your truck, we could fill it for about $6 if you filled it with electrons instead of gas. Everyone needs to make their own personal choice. I mean, I drive a 4Runner and I drive a lot. I can't pull a drift boat with a EV yet, so we'll figure out when that's the appropriate time to happen, and I'll get in line with everybody else when it's appropriate. Okay, promise, almost done. These guys, enhanced meters, advanced meters. In order for us to provide the full benefit of current technology, in order for us to provide them, to maximize the products and services that we can give to customers, including real-time energy consumption information, we need to reinvest in our meters. The majority of them, I'll say being vintage is being kind. I'll speak for myself only. As I get older, I slow down. Electric meters are the same way. So to ensure that we're accurately gathering your consumption information, being able to provide you the maximum amount of information, and for us to better operate the electric system, we need to upgrade the meters. So we're in the process of that. This is faster, more accurate detection and more responsive resolution to utility problems such as a power outage or malfunctioning equipment. Enhance access to your account information so you can make informed decisions about your utility service. Awesome. Exactly. Yeah, remote meter reading, which reduces traffic in your neighborhood and the need for PUD personnel to enter your property. We want to offer expanded customer options, including prepaid services. And we have an interest, and we've worked with other community partners to help the Dalles become a smart city. If you ask me what the opposite of a smart city is, I keep saying it's a dumb town, and I know we're not a dumb town. So help me, help you, help us become a smart city. And we're going to do our part by getting the communication infrastructure up and getting the technology in place and provide those solutions. So that's a lot of words by me. I think my organization is really great. My staff, I think, is really great. But just in case, we always submit ourselves for peer review from the American Public Power Association. There's 2,000 public power entities across the United States. We submit ourselves for a score every 3 years. This last year, we received the highest score in the PUD's history, and it reemphasizes the good work that we're doing in the areas of safety, workforce development, system improvement, and reliability. And, it feels good to go after the cheerleaders and say that you also had a good report card, and we did. Promise I'm done. Lastly, nwascopud.org. If you have questions about anything, it can be found here. If you go About Us, you'll find our audited financials, you'll find our board of directors meetings, the minutes, the calendar for them, first Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. at 2345 River Road. And if you have any frequently asked questions or anything you want to know about advanced meters, there is a drop down there. And I'm done. So, I'm here for questions at your need, or I can just go away. Yeah.
No, don't go away yet.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions for Roger?
Are the new meters kind of like Wasco Electric's been using for several years, or is there?
Similar in so much that the data transmits back to the office, so a meter reader doesn't come on your property, but different that the information doesn't crawl over your power line. It broadcasts over a radio frequency. So we'll have collectors. It's utility speak for kind of like a Wi-Fi hotspot, which is very much more secure. It works over cellular technology. The information is regulated and safe and secure and only comes to us. It's not our business what you do in your house with your power. We just want you to know how much you're using and when you're using it, and so we can find out when it's not working. That's the short answer. Thank you.
Thanks.
Councilor Runyon.
First of all, I want to say you're remarkably organized tonight, and Kathy McBride must have something to
Yes,
do with
my
it.
handler keeps me, all 8 of my handlers are in the room, so thank you. Yeah.
She was trained by the county, or trained the county, probably a better word. I don't know how you be cognizant and try to make sure that one power user doesn't supplant another one like you're talking about, but you do a great job of that. That's a Northwest story that's on the minds of everybody as these different companies come online. The tour you talked about, when I was invited to it was the Oregon Mining Company. I thought I was going to a dig, with and it was a room about a third this wide and maybe as long as this, right about where that map is to the wall, just to the ceiling with computers, I guess, and all the paraphernalia. And I think you said it was that one room used enough power for 10,000?
1,000.
Yeah, 1,000, but there were 2 or 3 rooms.
Correct.
Yeah, so 1,000 per room, that's what it was. It's amazing what's going on, and I know nothing about it. I'm going to defer to Russ to be the expert.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, trust me.
Anyway, so thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? It puts me in trouble to go back to a previous slide, or is that, it'd be the one on the peak load versus average load. There you go. Okay, it looks like in January of 3 years ago, the average was a little bit over 80, 82 maybe? Is that?
So historically,
Is that right?
correct. Historically, the peaks tend to fall in the February timeframe.
No,
That seems to
This
be.
is the average. The blue, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then our average, I think this morning was 104, and then this time last week was about 114.
Yeah, I'm looking at, it looked like it was about 112, and I just divided it out. It came to a 36% increase in 3 years. That's,
Correct.
okay.
Is that just your house?
Thank you for moving here, Mr. Mayor. No, just, it might have something to do with the 2 large sky cranes over in the industrial park too.
Or the new meter you're stepping with, haven't I?
No. Thank you for that. So one of the frequently asked questions is, will the new meter make my bill go up? New meters are tested to ensure that they are accurate. What can sometimes happen is you have a fully depreciated meter, like we call vintage or old, that's moving less. It's reporting less accurately. So in order to recover all of our rates, there might be kind of new house versus old house cross subsidization, which is why one of the many reasons we're holding off on rate actions for this year. You heard it here first. 2019, no planned rate action from the PUD, and Harvey hasn't hit me with anything, so my CFO says that's right. We need the reliable data, because the people we buy the power from have very reliable data, and how we recover the bill that we get from them is through all of your rates, including my own at my house.
Right.
So ensuring accurate reporting of consumption is integral to any sort of successful future for the district.
Thank you. Well, just for the record, I didn't get a new meter, and my bill didn't go up 36% in 3 years. And this is something all cities have to reckon with too, is their water meters have to be updated, and that's something we're working on too, I know that. So.
And thank you for that point. City Manager Kruger has been nothing but a great support and wonderful partner in talking about, if the PUD is going to build some infrastructure, how can we partner on it? And because whether you're a taxpayer or a PUD customer, it's the same person. So whether you're paying your water bill to the city or your electric bill to the district, is how can we be most efficient to help that same person together?
Great. Now, the data centers that are coming in and the increased load, I attribute, a lot of that is attributed to them. Is there a concern at all on your part about having the capacity to serve these customers?
Part of the interconnection and planning work that goes into, you can't just show up one day and say, I want to plug in a X megawatt facility. There's a lot of planning work, including on our end, and as we work with our federal partner and our energy supplier, the Bonneville Power Administration. So it's a multi-year process, which is why I felt comfortable presenting the slide that talks about the planned growth, because there's already been lots of process around that interconnection. For those that aren't aware, there is a brand new 230,000 volt receiving station being constructed in the industrial park right now to ensure that we have that, international airport strength of infrastructure to assure it's safe, to assure it has the right capacity, to ensure it's reliable before we ever make any of those contractual obligations or start those processes. So there's a lot of behind the scenes work. Kurt Conger is the Assistant General Manager and Director of our Power Resources Group. He spends a lot of time, and some of the other folks, Justin Brock as well, and Paul Titus. We had to formalize a process because it was any given day from any nation you could think of, folks coming in asking for interconnection. So we had to formalize at the Board of Directors direction and support and facility site evaluation request process. And before we do any large engineering work or put too much time to it, there's essentially cash on the barrel. So it's a pay-to-play process to ensure that we're not spending a lot of the district's time and the district's public funds researching something that's not going to come to fruition. So if folks are willing to go through the process with us, we say we're not quick, but we're right. And again, it's ensuring that these are not our dollars. These are community assets and something that is in its 70th year of existence. We have to ensure that we are good stewards of those public resources.
Yeah, my last is just a comment. I appreciate your efforts to help us with the underground utility situation downtown. I appreciate the community teamwork on that. So
You're welcome. I think that could be a great outcome for all of us.
okay. Yes,
Just
sir.
one other thing, you've got a senior member of the board here, Dan Williams. Dan, do you have anything you want to add? You've seen it all over the years you've been on the board.
Well, Roger did a great job.
Okay, I just want to make that offer.
And lastly, none of this happens without people. So, Cindy Gentry is our Director of Corporate Services. She runs our HR work and customer service and community outreach and media relations. So if you're posting to us on Facebook, it's probably her that's answering after I've been screaming and yelling up and down. And she's typically my handler, so I don't speak unless a few of them are in the room with me. And thanks, guys, for coming. I know this is after hours, so thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great presentation.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda is audience participation. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject which does not later appear on the agenda. 5 minutes per person will be allowed. If a response by the city is requested, the speaker will be referred to the city manager for further action. The issue may appear on a future meeting agenda for city council consideration. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the city council? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address. Here. Right there.
Good evening. My name is Josh Ferris. My address is 220 West 13th Street, The Dalles. I came in tonight because I met a very nice woman on Wednesday by the name of Lorraine outside of Sherry's. It was the evening, it was very cold, and I stepped outside and said hello to her. She identified herself as homeless and camped out down by the Google data center, and she talked about how there was something along the lines of like 100 homeless people who had gone to get food at a food bank, and she believed that there was at least double that number that were excuse me, I'm starting to catch a cold. That were in the town, and so I listened to her for about, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 minutes before I got pretty cold and we took off. And it was very impressive, and it reminds me how important this is. I'm sad she wasn't going to be here tonight, because that's one of the reasons I came, was because I wanted to support her, and she said she was going to try to make it to this meeting, but hopefully she'll come to the coalition meeting tomorrow. I want to stress, because this is an important issue, that you need to really take it seriously and do a lot of work on this. The idea that we have somewhere in the way of hundreds of homeless people in our town, people that live here without adequate shelter, is a big deal. And I think first, really seriously, we should stop approaching this from a charity perspective, like the Hooverville days, right? We need to actually have programs, and cities and counties and especially should directly be involved in this. I think that you should, number one, you should all be getting a stipend, because I expect you to work somewhere between 30 and 40 hours a week on this. I'm not expecting anybody to get rich, but at least maybe a $500 a month stipend. We need to get a homeless shelter. We need to hire a couple social workers. We need an actual homeless shelter in this town. If we have hundreds of people, or at least 200, we need to have a homeless shelter, and we need to give them social workers. A lot of my conservative friends talk about how people need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Well, if people don't have bootstraps, they can't pull themselves up, can they? That's where we need to come in and provide people with these essential services. And I think the city really needs to step up and make this happen. But there are other things that we can look at to address people falling into homelessness, and I think that the big one that's easy for us is a vacancy fine ordinance. And Salem is already talking about something similar statewide. Well, this is something that could easily be enacted on the municipal level here in the city. And we do have a significant amount of properties that are sitting vacant. And I think that they should be fined if these are properties or rental units that are sitting vacant for more than 3 months at a time, because we have to pay for that with public dollars. We're subsidizing that by paying higher rents, by not having enough houses to buy in the open market, and also with the blight that a lot of these places cause. And we will find that many of the places that are sitting vacant are often owned by people such as Wells Fargo, Chase Bank, etc. And even if it is Johnny Ritchie or whatever that owns this house and 3 other houses, they still should have to pay a fine for letting these properties sit vacant, because it does have a direct impact on our housing stock, and it increases the unaffordability. With the creation of revenue, you should seriously consider building actual public affordable housing. housing that is run by the public and this is what we had in the 70s and the 60s when we didn't have a homeless problem, because we had government that actually was serious about governance and solving problems and improving a quality of life and having stronger communities. I think I'm nearing the end and about to wrap up. Thank you. So it's very serious. We're seeing a lot of good developments. This rent control statewide initiative is something to be celebrated. It really is very, very important. And I think that as a city, we really should go out and work to even strengthen this locally. The 7% cap on increases of rent is hardly a regulation in itself, but we've had people increasing rents by 50 to 100%, and the 7% rent increase cap also includes the ability to increase rents with that it's pegged to inflation, so it can actually be increased by significantly more than 7%. So this is a good thing. I think we should support this, and if we're serious about providing a strong community here for everyone in the Dalles, then we'll take this issue seriously, and we'll work hard, at least 30 to 40 hours a week, and try to take care of this problem. And I hope that you will get a chance to meet Lorraine in the near future and take this problem serious.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question, what was that city that the vacancy fine ordinance, Eugene, did you say?
The vacancy fine ordinance that I know about, I learned from Harvard Legal Aid, was it was a city manager from Oakland originally that told me about this over 10 years ago. But it's been enacted in other places, many places.
Or Oakland, Oregon.
Oakland, California.
Thank you.
And this was 10 years ago.
I heard of something more recent, I thought it was in Eugene, but I'll check it.
There are more examples.
There's action pending.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the city council? Yes, sir.
Hi there. I'm Summit Bohannon, current address 3120 Old Duffer Road. I'm just pretty much here to talk about connectivity in the community, what Josh is talking about and what a lot of people are talking about. I see like very valid things that everyone wants to see improve, but it's kind of hard when there's a little bit of division, I guess, in the workforce. City council has its place, people who are local in the community have their place, people who are working in all these different divisions. So I just kind of wanted to put myself out there as a person who just recently came back to the community and would like to offer any services that I have, and I know there's a lot of people that I've talked with who want to do the same. There's just a little bit of this division in the communication that takes place. So I see a lot of things happening with the arts and the music culture in the community. The youth culture definitely wants to have a place and be a part of what's happening. There's all these big industrial movements, and like the energy thing is happening, the housing thing is happening, the homeless thing is happening. And I think really when it comes down to being humans and having a community, it comes down to the well-being of everyone. And that just kind of ties in with prosperity and everyone having a chance at equality. But I think in all reality, society has sped up so fast that we've kind of lost that chance. You know, a lot of people have lost the same opportunity that maybe others had, not necessarily in the past, but just circumstantially. So I really want to see the Dalles become a community where there's this awesome heart and people are focused on not only gaining things for themselves or seeing things improve in one field or the other, but the overall well-being and really having that heart come back to life, because I think there is a lot that each piece of the Dalles can share. There's just this communication barrier. It's kind of like the enamor of technology has just kind of put us a little bit, you know, off from each other, and now we don't really talk as much and connect as much on that level, but people want to. I think enough time has passed, and tying in with the homeless issue is mental illness, which permeates all levels of society, whether you're rich or poor, or if you have things or don't. So the overall picture of well-being, prosperity, and people coming together I've seen it happen. I've traveled quite a bit, and I've paid attention to the communities that I've traveled through. And there's some very, very simple, straightforward things, because we could talk about it all day. There's people who are professionals, go to college, and do all these things. But really, we want something that's tangible and something that people can grasp, and it doesn't have to be explained too much. You know, it's like, hey, come on and come show up. And you show up and you have a good experience. You meet some people. All of a sudden, you know some new people in the community. And what I find is there has been an attempt for this, and time again, it kind of like gets washed out. And I see other people attempting things in the Dalles, whether it's to become a musician or someone who's well known for a certain trade. And it really takes a strong connection with the community that's established here to survive and not have that wash out after a couple months or a year. And I want to just create that opportunity for more people, more of these facets of the Dalles that really have a lot to share, that aren't able to really get past the communication barrier that we're struggling with right now. So I'm going to be creative brainstorming with some other people in the community and try and get that group to be as wide-ranged as possible, not just a youth culture, not just people that I know personally, to see what we can come up with, because really it's fun. You know, once you get people engaged and started, like actually being part of the community is fun. And you know, for me, it just comes from a place, I grew up here, and I've experienced some different spectrums of mental illness and hardship that comes along with that, and not necessarily poverty, but maybe like the lower end of those things. And I've seen how it affects the entire life of an individual, and those individuals make up the community. And when people get forgotten or things get left out, it affects us all. And I think we're really coming into a time where we recognize that, and with the whole idea of equality and prosperity, we're going to create a beautiful world together. And I just want to be a part of that here in the Dalles and be someone who's offering my time and services outside of my personal time to do that. So I thank you for your time, and I thank you for everyone's service. We're all different, and we're all coming from different places, so sometimes words and the particulars don't really match up, but when we realize that we're all just human trying to connect and make a better world, we can kind of laugh at those things and really focus in on the things that make a difference and are reaching people. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Anyone else would like to address the city council? Yes, sir.
See, I'm Eric Gleason, 704 Case Street, The Dalles. I'm just here to spend a few minutes to just give you a little update on the Waldron Brothers Drug Store and kind of our progress towards bringing that building back into a functioning part of our community. To this end, we formed a nonprofit, the Friends of the Waldron Drug Store. We've started a fundraising effort. We've so far gotten several $1,000s in pledges and commitments, which only in 2 weeks, that's pretty good progress. That petition that we had to kind of save the building and reuse the building has garnered over 300 petitions, and would have brought some to bring in and turn over, except I grabbed the wrong bag tonight. And then we've also started putting on some presentations about the building. Last week I gave one at the Discovery Center that was pretty well attended. We're kind of focusing on the history of the building and what it's meant to the community over the years and how it's been kind of part of the community for a long time, and also kind of addressing issues with the reuse of the building as well. I'll be giving a presentation tomorrow at 1 o'clock at the Senior Center if anybody's interested in attending. What else? We were partnering with several other nonprofits in the community and in the state, so we're partnering with Restore Oregon currently and applying for a grant for a reuse and marketing feasibility study for the building. It's a grant that's kind of a $7,000 total grant, so it's a $3,500 granted from Restore Oregon and another $3,500 that the Friends Group will provide, either in in-kind services or monetary match. And then also one of the things that's really been striking is that we've gotten a lot of commitments for volunteers, so people that are interested in helping with all facets of the preservation of the building, including some local contractors that have made commitments to help with some of that early initial work that'll need to be done on the building. So it's going to need a thorough cleaning. It's going to need some of the hazardous materials taken care of, and we've got commitments to kind of help with that process. It's also going to need the mezzanine level that was added in the 1940s kind of demolished and taken away, and so we've gotten some commitments for help with that as well. And then one of the major parts of restoring and reusing the building is going to be the historic masonry, the stonework. And so we've got a commitment from local stonemason, historic preservation stonemason, to pretty much donate his time and with that effort, and also use his expertise to train volunteers and apprentices on the repair of these stone buildings, which this isn't the only one in our community. So such an effort would really help with other buildings in our historic district as well. So we're hoping to really kind of draw people of the community in together kind of in support for reusing this building, and hope to have more conversations with the city about this.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Gleason?
No.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else want to address the city council? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Sandy Bissett, 1021 Irvine Street West. 46 years ago, some of these same conversations went on concerning the original Wasco County Courthouse. I'm head of the board of directors for that organization. We are a viable 501c3 nonprofit. Our building over the years has been completely restored, and but in 1973 that wasn't going to happen. The city decided that the building had no redeeming values, and it was to be demolished. Whether one of our predecessors actually stood in front of the bulldozer, I don't know. It's every town has one of those stories, and that Alf Wernmark was very vocal when it came to that. The community rallied around that. What Gladys Siffert said was just an ugly little building that had no redeeming value. And if you drive by on West 2nd Place, or if you go to the chamber and go around behind the chamber, you will see that we have a lovely building. It was the original courthouse, 1859. It was completed just as Oregon became a state. When it was, when the construction was ordered, Wasco County went clear into Yellowstone Park. And so we have, as the Waldron building does, we have a lot of history. And I would hate to see this community in this day and age go through the same horrid experiences that happened with the courthouse. And I just, my plea personally is that some of the decisions that have been made could maybe be rethought and give this group an opportunity to see how the building can be saved for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the city council? Okay, the agenda calls for reports now. First, the city manager's report.
I missed the last meeting, and I apologize for that. I have a little lengthier report tonight. I know, sorry. I'll try to be quick. I just wanted to follow up on a few things that we have talked about, the ADA ramp transition plan, and I have an actual schedule now from Public Works where we'll have the preliminary draft done by March 22nd, and then our plan is to use the Transportation System Advisory Committee and Technical Advisory Committee to run that plan through and get their comments. They will get that information and hope to have a meeting the week of March 25th. Then we'll have, then there'll be another meeting on the week of April 8th, and then we'll be required to have a 30-day public comment period. I believe that's a federal regulation. Jean can correct me if I'm wrong. So with all of that added in, we believe we'll be to the council on June 10th to adopt the official plan after we have all the technical advisory committee input and the public input. Just wanted to let you know that's on track. And another thing I didn't get to report on last week because I was gone is you'll remember the wastewater treatment plant project, we received a state award for that. We've also received the National Recognition Award for, in the American Council of Engineers Companies for the 2019 Engineering Excellence Award Competition. So that's a pretty big deal I wanted to share with you. And then you'll recall, so most of you, I think, Rod, you weren't on the council at the time, but the city council had talked about forming a tourism advisory committee. This would have been last fall. And I was directed to bring that back and have the council review it. And the city council decided not to adopt that ordinance or form the committee. I don't know if you all remember that or not. So I just wanted to verify that because the Chamber of Commerce has put together a tourism committee, that Mayor Lawrence had requested, but there's just a little confusion, and I told them I would verify with the council that indeed it is not a city committee.
Correct.
If anyone has a different recollection.
That's.
Okay, I just wanted
accurate
to, I
me.
told them I would verify that, so. Okay, so we're still on last Monday. Things I didn't get to report. The Mid-Columbia Council of Governments has finally completed their dissolution of that entity, and so there was money that was refunded to all the members based upon their population and their dues structure, and so the City of the Dalles received a check for $133,897 for our portion. So that was unanticipated revenue that will go into miscellaneous revenue in the current budget. Okay. Now I need my glasses. I wrote all over everything. Oh, Chuck Covert, the airport manager, is here tonight also. I told him I'd give him a piece of my report time so he can give you a brief update on the airport proposed developments. Sorry, Chuck.
Okay, I see it's a short agenda here, so I'll try to keep a short report here. So Roger got me all excited when he started talking International Airport, and I wanted to see what he was talking about. But anyway, I think what Julie's referring to is that it's been a month or so ago that we had a E&A proposal on the agenda that we withdrew due to the Exhibit A being an issue. So there's been a few meetings and discussions about trying to come up with a solution for the E&A, but the previous developer that we had been working with since about 2007 resurfaced, and they feel they're getting close to being ready to move forward. So we had a public meeting on March 7th at the Flex Base. We had presentations from both folks, and it will be on our agenda for our next airport meeting, which is this Friday at 7 a.m. So both developers feel they have financial backing. We're hearing from $200 million to $500 million. So as you all know, we've discussed this project for many years, and I'm really not sure where we're headed, but I know one thing for sure: I'd love to see it happen, and I hope we can get something started, and hopefully that on your April 8th meeting, we'll have something for the agenda and ask you for your decision to go one way or the other. I guess it'll depend on how our meeting goes Friday. So that's one thing that's happening, and I think I've talked about that Hood Tech, the parent company of TAC Aero, They're very anxious to start the buildings, anxious enough that they had some snow removal done so they can move forward a few days quicker than waiting for it to melt. And they started digging this morning, and so they're going through the process and very aggressively, and that's going to be a great project for our community, for the airport especially. I guess that we're on our way to the international phase. And then they also, I just met briefly with Jeremy Young, who is the president of TAC Aero, that asked me if we could meet Wednesday because he'd like to discuss some future plans. So maybe the airport's finally off to, I feel very good that after all the work that everyone has done over the years and that we were able to complete the first phase of the business park, it really feels good to know that we're finally going to start receiving some rent income from those lots. And so from this first project, we'll start receiving $13.50 a month in rent income, which will be great. It's been a long time coming. So with that said, the only other thing as far as things that are moving on, it's going to be a good project. It's going to be $1.8 million that hopefully one of our local contractors receives as bidder on it. And so that'll be some money that comes back into our economy here. So I could go on forever here probably, but I think I'm going to cut off there and be more than happy to answer any questions.
I think it might be good to me to touch briefly on what an ENA is and exactly what the project is that some of the folks in the
Certainly.
audience,
Certainly.
puzzled with.
Good question, Councilor Brown. ENA is an exclusive negotiating agreement, and the developers by the name of KYDO, which is a local person, a person from Hood River, and a gentleman from Portland, came to I guess we met with them, Julie and Dave Sauter and myself, and they had a proposal that they would like to look at the golf course project that had not been going anywhere for the last few years. So they asked if we would be willing to enter into an exclusive or ENA, which we said that we would entertain. Like I say, we had a couple little issues with that, but we're getting there. So, and the other project, as far as the Roselands, has been going on since 2006. They submitted a master plan, I believe it was in 2008, and there was an appeal which caused a large delay, and then they were required after the arbitration to do an EIS, which is a very time-consuming and expensive project, which they completed. And now that the economy, and I think another factor that's really driving this is the Opportunity Zone. It's a new tax provision that's being offered to certain communities that qualify, and I think there's a lot of interest in people wanting to start those projects. So did that answer your question, Councilor Brown?
It was just,
Okay, no, good point, no.
There's folks in the audience.
You're exactly right. We say things sometimes and come up with these acronyms that sometimes you wonder what they are. So.
As a follow-up, basically, you have two companies that are interested in developing a golf course and housing development out there, is that correct?
That's correct. We have one that wants to look at it as a proposal starting from a blank piece of paper, and then we have the others that have been working on it for a number of years that have been making changes and trying to adapt. But I think that with the economy the way it had been, again, I think the Opportunity Zone has really stirred everybody's interest in this, and they feel that they have financing in place now that they didn't have, previously. So I guess we'll sit and listen, and the board will make some type of a recommendation, hopefully, and we'll be back, or I'll be back.
I understand that each company made a presentation to the airport board, is that correct, last Thursday?
That's correct. It was a public meeting. We were talking about having an executive session meeting, but we found out that that wouldn't be the proper thing to do under Washington law. Gene tries to keep us out of trouble, and he does a pretty good job of it.
Okay,
We push him.
You heard proposals from both companies. As I understand it, the airport board is going to make a recommendation to the city council.
I certainly hope so.
Okay, and you anticipate that being at our council meeting on April the 8th?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you also mentioned that Roseland has been working on this project since 2006 or 7?
That's correct.
Okay, I always hear that, the city and the airport, and there's been a golf course.
That's correct. It used to be Wasco County was the driver behind it when John Mayberry was the judge, and he was working with Tommy Lehman, I believe, was the golf pro, and then there was a gentleman from Hood River, Steve Testmer, and as far as the airport, the city, and the county, well, I guess originally the county wasn't involved with the airport as much as they are today, but originally the city and the Wasco County spent a lot of time trying to put something together, and there's been a lot of hours and a lot of commitment from a lot of folks to try to put this golf course together. And again, there's nothing I'd like to see more than to see it, because it would be a large improvement for the housing in this region. And of course, I always look at things what's best for the community, not the airport totally. So I think it would be a great thing for our region here to have the new housing availability.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Ryan?
Just to clarify for some that don't know, most of the time you're saying county, it's Klickitat County. Wasco County was involved with Judge Mabry way back.
Correct.
The partnership with Klickitat County began in '06?
It started, I think we're on our 15th year, so, yeah, I think it was a little bit before that, Rod.
Yeah.
Because,
Anyway, that just because you were just
Sure.
saying county, it's
Sure,
Klickitat
no.
County. So you'll make a presentation to Klickitat County as well as the Dallas City Council?
Normally what we do, but on this instance, we might do it prior. Normally we go to city and then we go county, but with there being the time frame, they meet every Tuesday, so we might sneak that one in, but it's always contingent on
Yeah.
the others' decision, because if they don't agree, then they'll pull their recommendation normally. So it's been a great partnership, and yes, that's a good point. But Wasco County was originally involved, but Klickitat County naturally, because the airport is in Klickitat County, and by having the partnership, we're able to take advantage of Washington programs and Oregon programs because of it being an Oregon airport. So it's been a great partnership, and we've made a lot of progress. I was taking some folks around the airport today and showing them different things, and it just amazed me at what's been accomplished in my time and working with the groups and putting together these partnerships. It's just been very impressive when I started thinking about it. So, and we have a long ways to go yet, but we're starting to run now instead of walk. So.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And Mr. Brown?
I just, for people that don't get spun up about golf, which that's me, there's also a considerable amount of housing at all levels, some multi-family housing. Both proposers have indicated that there would be quite a bit of housing there as well.
My memory is correct, Councilor Brown, I think it was 254, they were saying, 254 units, and it would be a combination of homes, apartments. They were even wanting to put some low income into the mix. They changed from the original plan where it was going to be more of a resort. Now they're trying to make it more of a community housing effort, so we'll see, but.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Covert?
No questions, just good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's not been just myself. It's been a great airport board support from the city council over all these years, in the same way with Klickitat County. Without everyone working together, we would have never accomplished a darn thing.
Right.
So thank you, and thank you for your participation on the airport board all those years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, just two more things. Roger's still here, so I might have to use your brain. I sent an email to the city council about partnering with the PUD to put in a electrical vehicle charging station at the festival park, and I wondered if the council had any questions. The reason I wanted mainly to bring it to your attention is because I want your consensus, if you will, that this is appropriate use for the park property. The station would be donated by PUD, and I think I've worked out a deal where PUD is going to install it. Then the city's responsibility would be to maintain the cloud services and the warranty on it so it stays in good repair.
I like it.
I did have a question from Councilor Long Curtis, and she wasn't able to be here tonight. And because I had mentioned I'd like to start out doing a no charge for it, she had asked what the cost would be, and I was able to find out it's about 40 cents to charge the car for 1 hour. So it's almost free. Yeah, so that really wasn't a concern for me. Of course, we would monitor the use, and if it got a great amount of use, we might want to charge something.
Any comments regarding this proposal?
I wonder, since we have Roger here, if you could tell us how it came about and what spurred the
How we
proposal?
got the grant.
If I may, there's an opportunity to provide services. One of the things with electric vehicle adoption, the phrase is called range anxiety. So if you have an EV that goes 200 miles and you want to come to the gorge and tour around, unless you have a Tesla specifically and you can go charge at Cousins, the only other public charger available to you in the community is at Fred Meyer, and that one is not always in perfect working order. So we wanted to partner with the city to say, well, if that is a restriction to folks coming to visit us, and there is a public place that would allow someone to park their car and use a level 2 charger, which is a slower charging mechanism, is there a public place that still lets people, walk around downtown, participate in the benefits that our community has to offer? And that seemed like a logical site. It's not on a city street, as it were. It's secluded in so much that people can take advantage of the downtown core, or even if you live here and you want to park there and go to the post office, get lunch, you can take advantage of that charging infrastructure. So for us, it's we sell kilowatt hours and want to be able to provide those benefits to the community in good partnership.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Brown?
If this venture were successful and the city thought it would be worthwhile to add charging stations later on, would the PUD be interested in partnering with us on additional
Very much
stations?
so. The gentleman that was here was part of my staff, Justin Brock, is our key accounts manager, and he's working throughout the community with other partners like the hospital and potentially the college on where businesses may want to site these public charging stations and figure out, because if you're an employer and want to attract employees that use this as their mobility option, we want to be your good partner and not a restriction to you offering that service. The state and the governor has signed an executive order that the state's electric fleet the state's fleet will become electrified over time. So before Department of Administrative Services orders a bunch of electric state cars, we want to make sure that we have the infrastructure in the community to support that. Again, we want doing business with us to be easy, and we want to be your good partner. So this is something that we're presenting to our board again more formally next month, and we expect some positive feedback from them as well.
Thank you.
One other thing.
Yes.
Because of the conversation earlier today about Parks and Rec and vandalism up on the mountain and everything up at Kelly Viewpoint, Lewis and Clark Park is an area where we do have cameras for...
We do have security cameras at
So
the
they would
park
be-
and the dock.
This would be in an area where that would be visible.
Yes.
I think it's real important. Thank you. I agree.
Okay, anything else on this particular topic?
No, I feel like I'm seeing heads nod, so I'm going to go ahead and move forward, and then after Mr. Klein takes it to his board, we'll start working together and get that done in time for recreation season.
Yes, over here.
Okay, thank you.
And I do appreciate you bringing that forward, too. I know it can be just an administration type thing, but it's good for everyone to hear it.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. So one other quick thing, and then I'm going to be done, I promise. I just wanted to update you. I know it's been quite some time. I made a comment or sent you an email about looking at the municipal court operations. And so I just wanted to report out to you that I have had continued conversations with Wasco County. They're doing some due diligence on their end. We'll get back together, but if everything works out, I think we will be recommending to the city council to move the criminal jurisdiction to the circuit court. So if we do that, if everything falls into place, it would be a resolution because only the city council has the authority to transfer that jurisdiction, and then an intergovernmental agreement with us and Wasco County, because we feel like we should compensate them at some level to do that work for us. So we've had some really great conversations. The chief of police has been heavily involved, the finance director, myself, the city attorney, and the Wasco County administrator. So we're doing everything we think is going to be right, but we still have a few hurdles to get through. Hopefully, I'll bring that to you in April for consideration. That's it.
Thank you. City Attorney's report.
I won't say anything about being brief. I know that's probably not a smart move. I will try to be fairly short anyway. This afternoon, I sent the council and the Urban Renewal Board a copy of what we call the Statement of Exceptions to TOCOLA. Essentially, those are objections that myself and Mr. Minor, who's the attorney for TOCOLA, are arguing that Boley made the wrong decision, and the administrative law judge also, by affirming Boley, made the wrong decision. If you read this statement, it focuses primarily on a case that involved TOCOLA back in 2012, where Boley had made a determination that the costs for site preparation and so forth were not to be calculated as part of the $750,000. It's a threshold that determines whether prevailing wages is paid or not. And we struggle with about how to raise that, because Boley has a ability to what they call do a look back. If they determine that prevailing wages should have been paid in a project, they could go back and seek some penalties and costs. And Mr. Untie was concerned that if we heavily relied on this decision, they might turn around and say, well, we made a wrong decision back then, and now we're going to come back on you and seek some penalties and additional costs. So we struggled how to raise that, but now we are arguing that Boley basically has made an inconsistent decision, because they decided back in 2012 these costs were not part of that calculation, and now they've switched. So that's our primary argument to the judge and to Boley. The Boley also, their attorney raised several exceptions too, and I haven't had a chance to look at their comments, but they're mostly technical. They are not asking for the decision to obviously be reversed like we are, but what happens is the commissioner now gets the proposed order and the exceptions that both parties have made. The commissioner issues the final order. There's no deadline for that, unfortunately, so we don't know when that's going to happen. It could be the next couple of weeks. Hopefully it's not a matter of months, but there is no fixed deadline, so we have to sit and wait till the commissioner issues that decision. The next step from there could be an appeal to the Court of Appeals. I don't know if Mr. Untie and his attorney are seriously thinking about that. That would be a pretty considerable expense for them, as well as perhaps my time if I became involved, and obviously we'd probably have a discussion with the agency before we ever pursued that, and with TOCOLA, but hopefully, the commissioner could reverse the decision. We don't think that's going to happen, but that could be an outcome, that the commissioner could decide that decision was inconsistent and actually make a decision in our favor, but we're not too hopeful about that, given the history of how the administrative law judge usually upholds the decision. The commissioner probably would look more than likely defer to that, but we'll wait and see what the final order is, and then probably meet with Mr. Untie and with the agency and talk about our options and see if we can move this project forward, hopefully. I mentioned last week I went down for the hearing on the appeal with the 13th and Perkins property with the Land Use Board of Appeals. I believe that they're to issue their decision on April 1st on that case, so that's an interesting day to get the decision, but hopefully it won't be a April Fool joke for us, that they will affirm our decision, and as they did with the 19th Street property. This week I hope to be meeting with the chamber director and the board chair about the current agreement for tourism services. I've been trying to get that scheduled with Lisa and her board chair, and hopefully we'll get that done this week and get that discussion going. The last thing I wanted to talk about was at the government law seminar I went to last Friday. One of the presentations was on what they call short-term rentals, which are like Airbnb. And one thing that I learned that I had sort of started a few months ago was that we will need to update our ordinance to deal with these kind of companies like Airbnb. They're called transient lodging intermediaries, and we are collecting some of those fees, but we want to be sure we're collecting all that's owed. So we need to change some language in our ordinance to make sure we've got the authority to do that. And they also talked during the presentation that the state is pushing hard to try to convince cities to use the Department of Revenue to collect lodging taxes. And so that may be an option we may want to look at. We do that for our marijuana tax already, but they are seriously looking at getting money this year from the legislature to update their software to do that, and so that may be something in the future.
Charge a fee like they do.
I think they would, yes, so that would be the downside too. We'd have to look and see what kind of fee they're talking about. There would be some benefits to have them doing it, but the big question would be what kind of cost would be involved and how much would we want to give up for that service. But that'll probably be something happening in the next, probably I think next year, because that legislation passes where they get their software in place, then they'll probably start pursuing that more and having a discussion with cities.
Any questions of Gene?
Oh, yes, Shiloh, taxes that were owed.
Yeah. We obtained a judgment for about $37,000 that were not paid for 2 months last year. I've been in touch with our corporate people. In fact, we were expecting a payment a few weeks ago where I was promised the check was in the mail. And then I saw the city of Portland has now filed a lawsuit against them for like $350,000 of past due taxes. Wow. The city of Seaside, I think, had filed a lawsuit, so they appear to be in some serious trouble. I'm concerned that they may be looking at a bankruptcy, but we do have our judgment, and we're going to try to keep collecting it. But if they're getting this far behind with other cities, they're probably having some major issues.
Isn't that franchise, aren't those franchise operations?
Well,
does corporate pay those?
Well, that's typically what's happened, yes. We've been dealing with the corporate, and what happened was when the Shiloh was acquired by another hotel entity here recently, the new owners are paying their share. This is taxes that were owed by Shiloh where they basically would not pay. They would file their returns and just keep the money, but apparently they're doing this throughout the state. I didn't know about Portland's debt, but that to me is a real red flag that they're in some serious trouble, and we're going to try to obviously get paid before somebody else does, but if they end up with this many judgments from that many cities, I would expect that they're not far away from a bankruptcy, unfortunately. And they had filed bankruptcy, or Mr. Hemstreet had before, back in the mid-2000s, went through and sold off several of his franchises, and that may be where he's back again, but I didn't know that Portland was... that they've just recently filed a lawsuit because they had the same problem we did where they'd file returns but not pay the money.
Okay.
So we will keep after them and
Any other questions?
hopefully get paid.
Okay, councilors' reports. Councilman Brown?
We do have some things this evening. At our last council meeting, the mayor made a statement that made it sound like the city was really flush, and while I don't particularly disagree with that, I think we're in a real good financial place, but it prompted a couple of comments from some of my constituents, a couple of them, that pretty much said, well, if the city's got so much money, why don't they give some of it back to the taxpayers? And I'm thinking, well, if they said that, there's probably other people out there that are thinking the same thing. And we are in a good place financially, not by accident, but that's in our day-to-day business. What a lot of people don't understand or may not understand is we're mandated by the city charter to provide services, including sewer, water, streets, and police, and for the most part, those services have been well-funded, with the exception of the streets. They've traditionally been underfunded for a long time, which has kind of left us with a multi-million-dollar backlog of street maintenance. And aside from that, we've got a 100-plus-year-old water line up at Dog River that the city's been trying to replace for a good many years. And it appears, from what I understand, is we're close to jumping through the last of the government hoops for permits and stuff, and we may actually be able to start on that project towards the end of this year. And due to the efforts of Mr. Anderson, our Public Works Director, we've got $1 million grant to help fund that project, but that's going to leave a $3 million deficit, or an unfunded deficit, I guess, in funding the project. And so while it may sound like we're flush, we've got these unfunded mandates that we're obviously going to have to borrow money to do the water line, and I'm certain we won't be able to pull enough money out of any of our budgets in the near future. I just wanted to make that clear because I kind of explained that to the people that ask me about all the money we've got. We have other issues to deal with as well. And,
Can I follow up on that?
oh yeah, I was going to move on to my next subject, but you go ahead.
As far as that goes, I just want to make it clear that I don't think I don't think I used the word flush.
No, I'm sure you didn't.
Yeah.
I don't remember your exact words, but it led
Yeah.
a couple of people
No,
to,
I respect that, that's it, but I want to make it in the context that my remarks were solely attributed to the fiscal year, that one individual fiscal year, and that we should take advantage of the good year we had. And so I just want to make that clarification, and you're absolutely right about the streets. We can never consider ourselves flush when we have millions and millions of dollars of needed repairs to our streets. So
I just,
wanna clarify that.
and the Dog River pipeline. I mean, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't get more people stopping me in the grocery store and asking me why they weren't getting some of that big money back. And the other thing is, it occurred to me recently, we'll soon be doing performance evaluations for the city manager, the city attorney, and the municipal judge. And personally, this council is supposed to be kind of a team. I mean, we're supposed to work together, and in my opinion, those performance appraisals should be done by this team rather than a bunch of individuals with a bunch of scattered thoughts that I think we could all do a better job of the evaluations if we did them in a conversation. And I talked to HR about that, and he suggested that I bring that before the council this evening to see if anybody else thought that was a good idea.
Could you be a little more specific? Are you talking about a group, everyone?
The council sitting down in a room and doing these performance appraisals rather than, pardon?
Together.
Together. We're supposed to be working together, and I think we'd do a better job of it if we had conversations about it rather than sitting in our houses with our 4 or 5 sheets of paper for each person, and
So in the past, we did them all separately and then
yes,
submitted?
and then they went into HR and he sorted through them and put all the thoughts down.
And then there's a meeting where
Yeah.
people can go over their comments or concerns.
I'd like to
Do it all.
I'd like to do it as a group because we're supposed to be working together. Just a thought.
I agree.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's a good idea, Mr.
I
Brown.
finally had one.
I agree.
Oh, thank you.
So
Thank you.
just a question on that, since I'm not familiar with the process or how it's gone, but, so have a group meeting to begin with, so we're sharing ideas.
Yes.
But then they'd still, individually, the council members would still turn in their own
No.
paperwork, but now they'd have everyone's information to go from.
I would like the council to make the evaluations as a group rather than, it just makes better sense to me. And I can't for the life of me imagine why we are doing a performance evaluation for the municipal judge. I've sat in that courtroom twice, not because I had to be there. So it's kind of hard to, honest, not recently anyway.
We have a conflict of interest.
I wonder if this could be a discussion in our work session on how that would work. That make sense?
How much time?
We're going to have
I'm
a
getting ready.
retreat, I mean, we're going to have a retreat
We've got-
before
Why can't
long.
somebody, if they know the answer to the timetable for which this is usually,
Happens in May, doesn't it?
Oh, it does?
We typically, well, our HR director's here. Would you like to speak to it, Daniel?
Yeah, so they're typically done in May, with the, I guess, the projection that they're at least done by the end of May. That they're been done on a specific date in May.
But there's a lead time.
Right, so there's a lead time, particularly if you're going to do individual evaluations. And then the way it's gone, at least the last 2 years, is council members and mayor do their individual evaluations of those 3 of appointed personnel. They send the performance evaluations to me, I compile all the data, put it in a report, and present that to council. And that essentially ends up becoming the performance evaluation for the.
This could be like a team building exercise.
Well, I don't want to put words in Councilman Brown's mouth, but it sounds like what he's suggesting, which I think I agree with, depending on your answer, is that we would have a group discussion in executive session, and then we would fill out, instead of filling out 6 forms, we would fill out 1 form with everybody's input, and a representative of the council would then meet with the city manager to review that. Is that where you're going with this too? Yeah.
I honestly, you know a lot more about how this thing's supposed, I mean, it just occurred to me a few days ago, it just made so much sense, I thought I have to tell somebody.
Well, as a council person, and this is my 6th, 7th year, I've always hated that process, because I'm sitting at home and I'm thinking, it doesn't always, there's a lot of communication when all of us are together, and I think, oh, I didn't think of that when I was making my assessment.
I like the portion about getting together as a group initially before going off to make our individual ones. The question I would have for our HR director as we go down this road is to have some real direction, because it's fine if all the people being evaluated, it's an all wonderful scenario, but what if you have individuals that you don't think are having a wonderful time as we go down through the decades? Not any dispersions now, but, you know.
You're talking individual counselors or?
Well, the people we're making performance evaluations on, I like gathering information, because I may not know anything about this particular, not much about, except my own interactions with somebody, and somebody else has had different interactions. I like to gather that information as a group, but then you would still make your own individual. You're saying no, just write one paper and be done with it?
I think that we have
I think it can go either way.
individual conversations.
I'm just saying it would work too well if everybody was on the same page and it was all positive. But what if some of it was negative?
Well, we have a conversation about it and we decide
And then
at what level we.
average or group.
So I think just procedurally, I think it works better than the way it currently is.
Sure,
Because
and I'm not
these
familiar with that.
positions work for the council, which is a body, not individual counselors. And so having a single council performance evaluation per position actually meets more of the, I guess fits better into the organizational structure, the way it is in charter than individual performance evaluation of this.
Okay, I have a suggestion. How about if, and I've done many of these myself, if the HR director, the city manager, and I get together, it seems to me we have to develop a process first.
Right.
And then 3 of us will come up with a process and submit it to the rest of the city council. And that process will, as its centerpiece, involve one group think,
Okay,
executive session,
thank you.
and also the second part of that was a chance for everyone, of course, to have input, but we would meet as a group first and come up with 1 as opposed to 6. Is that okay with everybody? Yes, sir.
Well, I'm not certain I want to contribute to your satisfaction of having a coherent idea. I'm sorry I had to say that. Now, Russ, what I'm coming back to, I think that coming back, it's very important to have a coherent, efficient evaluation of staff. And so bringing that all together, I'm not opposed to what you're suggesting, is that we collect data and then we come together. But I still like to have the ability individually to go through and give my individual, which is what I'm hearing you say is your suggestion, correct?
Yeah.
Before we make a final decision.
absolutely, yeah.
And then present.
And you'd be part of the group, too.
Not sure I understand what it's.
Is that is that the same page I'm on?
Whatever works. I know that the process we're using now, in my opinion,
Isn't working.
isn't efficient or really coherent. I mean, it's not, we're not working together, and that's what we're supposed to be doing, I think.
It's good.
I will agree with that. And any way that we can look to improve, I'm open to that.
I'm game for whatever form it
And everybody's
takes.
okay with the three of us meeting first to come up with a process and submit
Yes.
to you guys? Okay, great. My last issue would be what's the timetable for the city manager evaluating the city council? Is that on the, that was a joke, come on.
It's called an election.
That's done on a daily basis.
My notes said wait for laughter to subside.
The tar and feathers is waiting downstairs.
Okay, anything else on this issue? Where were we? Anything else?
No, I'm out of ideas.
Gosh, you said more than normal.
I know, and I was just
I probably talked more tonight than I've talked the last 4 years.
Councilman Runyon, your turn.
Since our last council meeting, as you know, I've been taking part in the local government class that Matthew Klebs is putting on, which is a citizen-directed class, but I thought might be worthwhile learning about the community a little more, and it's been excellent, and Chuck Covert was our host at the airport, and it was very, very thorough, and I learned a lot about our municipal airport. And next year, I would encourage everybody in this room to sign up and take this class. It's on Tuesday nights and 5:30.
College credit?
Huh? College credit, yeah. The College of the City of the Dalles. They actually are going to hand out a certificate, I think. Yeah, I have no idea. On the 6th of March, I attended in Willamina, Oregon, the League of Oregon Cities budget overview on cities. And a lot of it was ethics of budget committees and so forth for citizens as well as city councilors. There were over 60 people in the room, well attended. I did not get the long distance trophy because they did not have one, but other than that. On the 7th, I was signed up to be in a new program for the League of Oregon Cities, a Talk to Congress series that they're beginning. And this particular time, it was Congressman DeFazio, and he's the chair of the Transportation Committee. And I find that area interesting, and it was worthwhile. That'll be probably the minutes or some semblance of minutes will be in the League of Oregon Cities bulletins in the future, so you might take a watch for that and sign up for the next call. And they're going to continue to go around our legislative force in Washington, D.C. Earlier today, the Mid-Columbia Veterans Memorial Committee met. I'm on that committee, not through the city, but just as a citizen. But one of the issues that we've had, and I want to compliment Dave Anderson, our Public Works Director, the flagpole that the Memorial Committee paid for a few years ago in front of the Veteran Service Office had begun to slip.
Oh, really?
And the company that put it in suggested cement because of the wind in that area, but the old timers at the time who were supervising the project in the community thought the traditional way, like at the courthouse, of sand and gravel was the proper way to do it. And so that's what they did, and we have a pole that's been leaning. The city has already straightened it up one time. It's now it's gone back a little bit, about 1/8 of an inch, and Dave Anderson's on top of that, and he's been reporting to the Veteran Service Office whenever the city people come by, because I had asked so we would be kept informed on the progress, and he's going to figure that out as the weather continues to get better. But I want to thank Dave and his crew for checking into that. It is a city, the Memorial Committee paid for the pole, but it is city-owned property, shared facility with the Wasco County Veteran Service Office, but a city building. And so it's a teamwork effort, and that's well appreciated.
Thank you. Councilman Miller.
I attended, since my last council meeting, I attended the Dalles Sister City Association. And there's been new administration for that agency, and I'm really impressed with this young woman as to her diligence in finding out information, and it has always been that the delegates that are going to Japan and the association have kind of combined funds and efforts. Well, it's being separated now, so that the delegates are going to be on their own as to the dollars that are raised for those trips, and that the agency or association are going to have their own funds and fundraising for it. And tomorrow, or Wednesday, I will be attending Household Hazardous Waste Committee. And of course, the main issue is recycling. And so I'll report back on what happens with that. That's my report.
Thank you. Councilman McLaughlin.
Forgive me, Councilor Brown, for the teasing. I respect you and enjoy working at your side. With that said, with that said, I was not going to give a report tonight, but because of some of the things I've heard, I'd like to address a few things that I do agree with. And zombie homes has been a problem, and they exist in our community, and it drives people that are homeless into those areas that to take advantage. It's also the banks, just because of their neglect, and the lenders are abusing those properties and not dealing with it. So I'm actually in favor of finding them and holding them accountable. There's no reason that they should be holding on to those properties. And zombie homes are unattended homes that fall into mortgage where there's in default, and they just sit for months and years, and they're not dealt with, and they do become an eyesore for the neighbors, and it is a problem. So I think we should address that perhaps in the future years or months. And then I'm looking at, of course, Walden Drug building is a dear to my heart, and I would like to preserve anything that is the basis of where we have come from and where we're going. We need to preserve those as often as we can. So finding the resources and identifying, some are meant not to be maintained or protected, but there are some, and this one, in my feeling, is the Walden Drug is one of those buildings. We would not have St. Peter's Landmark, the city museum, of the courthouse, excuse me, if it wasn't for the efforts of local community and citizens coming together. And so I appreciate, I see Doug is out there, and I see all of you out there that are very concerned about preserving the past. And so I just wanted to say that. Summit Bohannon is not here, but thank you for a young person stepping up and, are you, oh, you were still here. There you are. I just want to tell you that I was looking because you.
Got his glasses at Costco.
Remember, I was your principal. All right, but I want to thank you for making a statement, and, you know, it takes more young people that will get involved in community and government. And so I commend you, and I hope you continue your service and involvement with others.
People who might start to get involved just in the next couple of months or the next year. So I'm hoping that there'll be more other people who can step up to me.
And with that, I attended the Community Connection, I think it was last month, the end of March. And it was a wonderful connection of people coming together. And special kudos to Sharon Thornberry. She is the Oregon Food Bank Regional Director, and Chief Ashmore, because of your help and your vision of helping people that need some assistance. That was a wonderful day, and there's a lot of good things that came out of that event, and it's going to continue. So I just want to say there are great things happening in this community. You know, all the bad things that we hear about, we just need to focus on those positive things that brings us all together. And so that's my report.
Thank you. Under Mayor's report, I gave the welcoming address at a food and nutrition conference at the Readiness Center last week when it snowed a lot, but despite all the snow, we had 100 people there from out of town that came to the Readiness Center and learned all about food and nutrition. I will be also attending the community outreach. Councilman Long Curtis and I will be going to Washington, D.C. in a couple of weeks as part of the community outreach team, and I will not be here at the council meeting, and our council president will be presiding over the meeting, and it's in his capable hands.
Give me the gavel.
Well, after the meeting, you'll get the
Party time.
And finally, I'd like to thank our city clerk for creating and printing these wonderful certificates that we gave out to the cheerleaders and the coaches tonight. Nice job, thank you. And with that, is there any other business to come before the city council? Get ready.
I am.
Meeting adjourned.
I thought it was going to be a short meeting.
Well, not just that.
Feel a little better than I did after
And I
last
apologize
meeting.
for my part.
You did good.
I had 2 weeks.
Hey, yeah, well, you were, I heard you were on the way to Portland the next morning when I went to check on you. So you were okay. I think it was what you ate for the dinner here? No?
I don't, I don't read. You Google vertigo and you tell me what causes it.
Agency or committee or